What a fun day. We're talking about nature spirits, leprechauns, gnomes. And how does this relate to healing our inner child? What you feel you can heal, and now manifesting everything you want to create in your life, those things that are most important to you. How does it all fit together? Well, in terms of creativity, when we're in touch with our childlike self, we have the imagination, we have the vision, and we have the belief to sustain us through those trials where life will pull us down and cause us to not believe in the possibility of what we want to create. In this world, there's no such thing as a failure. There are only quitters. And that's very important to understand. It's we who give up on our dreams. And what we have to know is the world is conspiring to support us and help us grow strong and make our dreams come true. And one of those places where we get that support is in the natural world. And there's all kinds of signals and signs that the nature spirits are loving us and supporting us. And how do they do that? Well, first of all, I want to just give you an example of the power of someone thinking good wishes for you. And this is like amazing. How many times have you been driving along and you look at someone and you have some interest in that person, just they're interesting to look at. I'm not saying you want a relationship with them or you think they're awful, or it could be any of those things. But they grabbed your attention and you look at them. Within a short period of time, what happens? They look back. And they don't even know why they look back. And this happens to me when I'm driving. Somebody puts their attention on me. Oh, I look over. And it's right then, then they'll look away. But this is what happens, is the mind has tremendous ability to send attention, and it affects people's consciousness enough to go, somebody's looking at me, or what is that? And they look around. Well, this is the influences that we can have when we love people, when we send them good wishes, and we're caring for people. Often we say the power of prayer is sending our love and support to someone to let them know that, you're not alone and that you're cared about and you're appreciated. We believe in you and we believe, and so we ask that this be done for you. It's that kind of love and support that helps us that we can give to each other. Well, the nature spirits sometimes will pick us out and want to give us that support as well. And there's certain signals for that. For example, one of the things they do that you shared with me is
they love to leave pennies for us. And remember, gnomes are tied to the earth, and one of the minerals that's very valuable to them is copper. It's like gold to them. They don't really care what we stamp on the denominations. It's the metal that really they respond to. And so when you see those pennies lying around, take it as a sign they were trying to give you something. They're trying to give you good luck. They're trying to give you well wishes. And what I like to do is I like to leave pennies wherever I go, because the gnomes are working everywhere. They're in the restaurants, they're in the gas stations, they're in the hotel. So I'm leaving a penny for the maid, so to speak, because they're working there right along with the maids. We all have gnomes around.
What are they doing with the maids?
Well, all of us have two gnomes, whether we realize it. Like, we all have a guardian angel, we all have archangels, we all have guides, we all have two gnomes, and so they like to have a purpose. They like to help us. Sometimes when you have something new coming into your life, and it's completely new and you need help with it, you'll get a new gnome that's kind of good in that area and that will want to join your family and help you. They like to have a purpose and a job. That's one of the things that they're doing.
What kind of a job does a gnome have? You've got two gnomes. What are their jobs?
Well, right before we got our first big shipment of books, this is a great example.
And you have more than just one book on these little characters.
We have four, yeah.
Four,
and they're all wonderful. We had gotten so much information from them over the years that we started saying, oh my gosh, this would be great for the magic section. This would be great for how to see them. And we teach people how to see them in one of the books, because a lot of people want to learn how to see them. So anyways, getting back to the story. That's right.
Little jobs. Those little gnomes are helping you in the restaurant. What are they doing?
Well, in the restaurants, they're working with people that own the restaurant, and they're bringing food to the table. They're saying they want soup now, bring it out fast. They're hungry, they don't want to wait, things like that. They're cleaning the table. They're bringing
but they're not actually physically. They're bringing the energy of, okay, it's time to clean the table.
Right.
We want this table to be clean, and so you're there cleaning up the table, and you might see this little speck and go, oh, I should clean that too. They're adding to our enthusiasm to do something.
Right. They're like, we're talking about the inner child. They're bringing out the inner child of us, and a big part of that is living in the present moment. They're saying, for example, you want to go to this restaurant, and this just happened to me 2 days ago. We're near Sausalito. I really wanted to go to this restaurant, and for some reason I'm not following these rules that I'm talking about, and I'm going to all these different restaurants, and they're all about, why don't you people just do what they really want to do? Why don't they make their dreams come true? Something simple like going to the restaurant that you really wanted to, or asking for that table right by the window.
Or just simply knowing what you want. Sometimes people are so ambivalent. I don't know this. What should I do? They can't make up their mind. And just this little feeling comes, oh, this is where I'd like to go. You know what's so interesting is that every person who's ever been really, really successful in making their dreams come true, there's a little pivotal point where they make a choice, and that changes their entire life. Transformation of an entire life can be one little choice. And I'm going to share one of those choices with me. Now, this wasn't from a nature spirit, but it was from someone from the other side. My younger brother, he was always looked to me as the older brother. And I just really kind of like his dad. And I wasn't a good dad, you know. I was still trying to have my own life. So I wasn't the perfect brother. But he loved me of all the brothers because I was a good brother. And I know that to be the case. But at a certain point in his life, in his early 30s, he committed suicide. And it was because his life just was too hard. He was struggling tremendously. He was a brilliant genius, but he would have these extremes of up and down, which is now what we call bipolar. And he was taking a drug for it that had terrible side effects. And finally he said, you know, I just don't want to live with these side effects. And he shot himself. Well, that was a huge tragedy, huge tragedy. And one of the reasons it's a huge tragedy, if I can digress for a moment, is that the drug that had the terrible side effects was a drug called lithium carbonate. People call it lithium because they discovered a long time ago that when you go into a spring, which is filled with the mineral lithium, that people come out and they feel better, they feel happier. Maybe they're seeing gnomes at that point, but they feel happier. And when they feel happier, they went, wow, what if somebody who's depressed goes in these waters? And they would feel happier. People who had schizophrenia, for a few days, they'd be like normal. And they went, wow, what are these magic waters? This really happened. They analyzed the water, had this mineral lithium in it. And so then they got together and they mined lithium and they gave it to people who had mental behavior problems. You know, depression, anxieties, couldn't sleep at night, different personalities would come out. And they found that it was just simply a deficiency of this mineral lithium that was causing the problem. No big brain damage, no horrible person, just a deficiency of this mineral. So they gave people the mineral and it didn't do anything. And so they gave more of it, and then it would help dramatically. It would help people. But the mineral they gave was something called lithium carbonate, and you had to give huge amounts because it wouldn't go straight into the brain. And so it's a salt, so it would like have all the symptoms of eating too much salt. So he gained all this weight, it hurt him, and so forth. These are the side effects of eating too much salt, also the side effects of eating too much lithium carbonate, which is a salt. A German doctor discovered, even at the time when my brother was alive, that you don't have to make lithium a salt. You can take lithium, the mineral, and bond it with orotic acid and create something called lithium orotate. And then you only need to take a little tiny bit, like a little bit of salt is good for you, a little bit of lithium orotate is good for you. And the orotic acid would carry the lithium into the brain and take away the symptoms of anxiety and stress and bipolar and schizophrenia. And if our society just knew about it, if I knew about it at that time, I could have saved him. It took me many years before I found that solution, and I've saved thousands of people will now say I was bipolar, I'm not, just because of some of the information I've learned about that. Lithium orotate, still can't buy it in health food stores, don't need a prescription, there's no dangerous side effects possible, don't need very much. You can go online and you can order it. You can also order it at my website, marsvenus.com, or you can go to a few other websites that carry it. People just don't know about it. There's so many things that are wonderful that people don't know about it. Immediate transformation of mood if you have stress in your life. But I want to put that off to the side. And I want to talk about this transformation in my own life. I wrote a book called Men, Women, Relationships. It wasn't Men from Mars. I wrote that book and called it Men from Mars, and none of the publishers liked it. So I wrote Men, Women, and Relationships. And then I got a publisher. It did well on its own. And then my little distributor said, oh, this is really great. We finally have a really successful book. At that point, my agent told me, oh, the New York publishers want your book. You're doing so well. And they've offered you a lot of money for it. And so I called up my distributor and I said, hey, good news. New York publisher wants to carry my book. And they went, every time, they were sad, every time and disappointed. Every time we have a success, the big guys take it away. And I thought, oh, well, let me talk. They said, would you talk to the president? We think we can do a better job or as good a job as the big guys. I said, sure. And I came to the meeting. And there was the president telling me, he was so sad, and you could feel his pain. Another one of his successes gone, because if I go to the big publisher, they can't continue to succeed with my book. And in that moment, I felt the presence of my little brother. And the lesson I learned with my little brother is that he felt hurt in his life because he was kind of always last and not as good at things. And one of the lessons I learned is to never overlook the people who've helped me, because he was always helping me and holding me up, but I wasn't holding him up because I needed that, and then think, well, I have to help my brother. So there he was in spirit. I could hear him speaking through this person. He says, give us a chance. We think we can do a good job. And in that moment, at the end of the conversation, they said, well, can we keep the book? I said, yes. And my agent was shocked. My wife was shocked. They go, but this is your dream to have a New York publisher. And at that moment, it was the right thing to do, because this is what I'd learned, and my little brother was there. This was my opportunity to make amends, to do unto him what he did for me, to always be loyal to me. So I'm walking away from that meeting, and my agent says in front of my wife, they're going, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? This was your chance for your book to become a big bestseller. And in that moment, my heart was open, and I said, I'll write another one. And I did. 3 months later, I'd finished Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and I'll give it the original title, Since They Now Want Me. And that became the foundation of a book that sold more than any other book in that decade, and to this day is one of the biggest selling books in history. All from that one moment, because I had written that other book. I didn't want to write another book. That was hard work. But now I had to do it because I wanted the opportunity to bring it forth, and I knew in that moment I could write another book and it will be even better. And that gave me the motivation. That's the power of keeping our hearts open. And it can then create one little shift and we make a huge change. I was able to make that change because I've taken the time to get in touch with the childlike part of me, the part of me that will cry when I feel somebody else is in pain. That tenderness is what changed my life, transformed my life for the rest of my life in that one moment of decision. We'll be right back, and we'll learn more about how to open our hearts so you can make the best decisions for your future.